right. So that's basically just to knock the rust off of your the sort of the calculus piece of this. So it's the first derivative of this function with respect to income. The question that we ask, and again, this is sort of how behavioral economics proceeds. I've challenged the standard model. The standard model, represented by an enormous number of economists who do not want to have to give up the standard model, many of whom work in places like Chicago and Princeton. The standard model comes back and says, wait, I can explain it. I can explain it with the income effect. Okay, so the way to think about this is when we say income, what we're really talking about is the value of your entire endowment of stuff, right? So I give you, in the model, the way we set it up, the way we think of it is, okay, I gave you this budget constraint, which is a certain amount of money. How do you allocate it? And if you pick that point, your wealth is now not in dollars. It's in like rice and beans. It's your endowment of whatever it was that you purchased. Some of which may be money in the bank. Some of it is, your Porsche, and some of it is, whatever. So what I've done, right, in a lot of cases is that by asking you, some of you, I said, well, you're going to be gaining 100 acres of forest, which means that your existing endowment is your current wealth in money and whatever else you own, plus the area of Yosemite, okay? So your wealth is equal to, or W rather, I'll define that as your endowment, is your wealth in dollars, plus, if you'll allow, your wealth in acres of Yosemite, okay? So the people I'm asking they're willing to pay for more, their current endowment is their wealth plus Yosemite. The people who I'm asking to give, here's a bunch of pristine wilderness, and an acre of it is about to be destroyed, right? By framing the question that way, what happens is that I've made that additional 100 acres also part of your endowment, right? Because I'm saying this is pristine forest that already exists, and you're going to have to give it up. So I'm defining that as part of your endowment. So what the defenders of the standard model do is they come along and they say, look, here's the demand curve. The first thing you asked was people's demand for wilderness forest when their wealth is equal to W. And all you've done with your second question is that you've said, okay, if I increase your wealth to W plus 100 acres, well, of course your demand for acres of wilderness is going to go up. I've increased your income. Your demand for all normal goods is going to go up. I've increased your wealth. This is not a challenge. Okay? So one of the ways that we approach this kind of thing is to sort of say, okay, is that in theory, that works, but is it plausible? Right? Is it plausible that giving you an additional 100 acres of endowment of forest would increase your valuation of forest by as much as it did? Now, God, I know this happens to you all the time. I was about to say, where's Waldo? What was the ratio? Oh, I guess I can figure it out myself. So, but you've done the math. It was... Sorry? I want willingness to accept over willingness to pay. It was 2.4. So the question you got to ask yourself is, if I increased your wealth by the value you place on 100 acres of Yosemite wilderness, would your willingness to pay for an additional 100 acres actually go up by a factor of 2.4? Okay? One way to sort of calibrate this is, so the maximum, the average for willingness to accept was $573. Okay, let's take that seriously. If I gave you $573, would your willingness to pay for 100 acres of Yosemite pristine forest go up by a factor of 2.4? Would your willingness to pay for any other good go up by a factor of 2.4? Right? I mean, if I gave you $573, would your willingness to pay for Cheerios go up by a factor of 2.4? This is implausible. Okay? So the implausibility, it's not enough that a theory could potentially explain something. It has to sort of be, you have to be able to calibrate it and have it be plausible. Okay? That's not a proof of anything, but it sort of makes us scratch our head and say, I'm not so sure I like this income effect explanation. Okay. I am really having trouble this semester with my animations. I'm very sorry. This thing's not supposed to appear until the end, so why don't I just put everything up at once? This is in one of the papers that's assigned. I think it's the first one. These are results from real-world contingent valuation surveys. Now, what I mean by real-world is not just the dumb thing that I just did. Right, not dumb, but sort of simplify. But actual environmental economists going out and doing their best at contingent valuation surveys. For all kinds of weird stuff. Marshland, fine. Fishing rights, okay. A fishing pier, the Postal Service, goose hunting permits. These are the things that people in public policy need to put numbers on. And they've gone out and they've asked people their willingness to pay and their willingness to accept. And this is the ratio of those two things. And we get numbers, none of them are less than 2, and we get as high as 16. These numbers seem implausible. We refer to this, so what we see here is that your initial endowment, whether I'm asking you, whether I'm saying, look, you're endowed with this marshland, are you willing to give it up, versus you're not endowed with this extra marshland yet, are you willing to purchase it, seems to have a big effect on the evaluation you place on the good over and above the income effect. Okay? And we refer to this as the endowment effect. Right? What you are endowed with has a huge impact on how much value you place on it. Okay. Now, all of those studies that I just showed you, those contingent valuation studies, right? So some of these were hypothetical surveys like the one I just gave you. Some of them were actual real exchange experiments where people were actually asked to put money on the line. Your money, how much would you be willing to pay for a deer hunting rights or for a taste of sucrose octoacetate? Don't ask. These studies are confounded. First of all, though it's implausible that the income effect explains these results, we haven't actually rigorously ruled it out. Okay? Second, it's possible that subjects are just applying a habitual bargaining strategy that they learned in a bargaining setting, right? If you're a buyer, you start with a buying price that is below your actual maximum willingness to pay. And if you're bargaining as a seller, you state a minimum willingness to accept that is actually above, right? You start with your first offer as above. So maybe they're just sort of using that as a heuristic. And then the other thing is that contingent valuation surveys are unnatural and maybe subjects are just confused. So we need to address all of those confounds in order to be able to say that we're really rigorously rejecting the standard model in this case and that we have a true anomaly. Okay. So what behavioral economists typically do is to turn to a randomized experiment. And they design a randomized experiment. So you have to really think hard when you're designing an experiment to make sure that your experiment actually rules out all of the possible explanations that someone might throw at you. So here's the first of these experiments. Well, I guess it's the second because I did one last Thursday. A lot of what I'm going to do this semester is to present some of these experiments to you. Some of them will be lab experiments like this, and some of them will be real-world experiments. This is an assigned reading. This is Danny Kahneman. This is Dick Thaler. Those are two massive bigwigs. This is Jack Knetsch, who teaches at the University of British Columbia in Canada. This guy's a psychologist. This guy is just a madman. He's an economist. What he does now is he runs a hedge fund using behavioral economic theory to make money for rich people. That's not the only thing he does. He also advises the government on public policy. He's a fabulous guy. He's completely hilarious. And Jack Knetsch is an environmental economist who does contingent valuation. This is the famous mugs and candy bars experiment. Okay, so here's what they did. They took 44 undergraduates in a class at Cornell, which is in northern New York, and they randomized them into two groups. So this is it's a classroom setting, taking advantage of your students as usual. In the first experiment, they did I've had to correct this every year for several years. Tokens versus money. So these are just, this happens in a lot of experimental settings. I'm going to give you these little plastic or metal or paper tokens, and then I'm going to ask you your willingness to trade them. And those tokens, I'm going to assign some dollar value to the tokens, right? Like I'm going to say each token is worth $1, and then I'm going to ask you ridiculous questions like, what's your maximum willingness to pay for a token, right? And I do this because I want to sort of test my setup. It better be $1, right? Unless I put like a picture of your favorite movie star on the token. So selling versus buying tokens. The sellers, right? The groups are divided. The class was divided into sellers and buyers. So the sellers were given some tokens. The buyers were not. Everyone was told the value of the tokens, and then they use an incentive-compatible mechanism. I'll explain that in a second to elicit the willingness to accept from sellers and willingness to pay from buyers. Incentive-compatible mechanism basically means that the mechanism is set up so that if you give a number other than your true valuation, there's a chance that you're going to miss out on a beneficial opportunity. So if I'm asking you whether or not you're willing to sell tokens, and you give a number that's too high, and you say, no, I'm only willing to sell a token for $2, then I come along and I say, okay, well, the actual trading price is $1.50, and since you said 2, you don't get to trade. Okay, so you blew it. You just lost 50 cents. Okay, and vice versa. So we have these mechanisms that we believe are incentive compatible, meaning that your incentives are compatible with telling the truth. Okay, and then they allow the market to set the price P. Right, they've elicited willingness to pay and willingness to accept, which means they've got a demand curve and a supply curve, and they figure out the market clearing price and they conduct the trades. Sellers are the willingness to accept below that market determined price, yet trade tokens for money and vice versa. Then they do the same thing with mugs. So they randomly endow every other subject with a mug. Now, it so happens that I have such a mug. This is a Cornell mug, and it was given to me by a couple of my students last year. They basically got a box of these from the Cornell student store, and they gave them, right? You don't get to keep that. To every other person in the group, okay? So they've endowed half the class with a mug. I'll leave it here. By putting it on their desk in front of them. This makes that person a seller, and those who are not endowed are allowed to see the seller's mug next to them, so we can rule out any difference in their experience with the mugs. So those people are buyers. And then we use the same mechanism to elicit willingness to accept and willingness to pay. Fine. Now, without looking ahead, tell me this. With 44 subjects total, randomly divided into 22 buyers and 22 sellers, how many trades does the standard model predict will be transacted? Now, mind you, remember, the standard model says that willingness to pay and willingness to accept should be the same on average across these groups. So how many trades, once the market clearing price has been determined, should you see in this setting under the standard model? Okay, maybe another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and there we go. Anyone want to stake a claim before you show the answers? B, 11. All right. Who was the person here who said it? Who said 11 in here? That was you. Okay. Okay. Not everyone agrees with you. Who wants to defend their answer? Who said A? Yeah.
I just feel like this. If you're trading tokens for $2, you don't really have any leverage. Get 2 tokens, that's like 21 other people with mugs. And as soon as one goes for 2, then somebody's gonna not get to get 1. Their mug is 21 mugs left and $20. So you get what I'm saying?
It happens that I don't get what you're saying, but that doesn't mean that you're not right, because there's a lot of things I don't get.
If I have a mug and I try to sell it for 2, and I have a token, I wouldn't pay 2 because someone else will sell it for 1 good.
So you're talking about basically people would bid each other down.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you sold it for 2, then there's not enough token for each mug.
Okay. I'm not sure if that's plausible or not, because I don't think I'm following you well enough. But I want to get another. So what's someone who said B? Was that you? Are you a B person? No. Are you a B person? You're a B person. I'll come back to you another time. Go ahead. Oh, so you're reading ahead. No, Portia supposed to read ahead. Yes. Okay. So believe it or not, that's right. And thank you very much. And in simple terms, that was a correct explanation. To convince you that, okay, so the answer is B. Let me show you sort of a way of thinking about this, and then you can tell me whether or not it makes sense to you. Okay, so 50% of buyers will have willingness to pay. P is going to be defined. Sorry, this is not actually incredibly well written. What matters here is that you understand how the market price is determined. Okay, so let's just imagine a really simple case where there's 5 in each group. Okay, and they're identical on average, right? Because this is randomized. So let's assume that these are identical people, and this is their willingness to pay or willingness to accept, and this is number of mugs. Okay, so we ask willingness to pay, and there's someone who has sort of the highest valuation here, and then some other buyer says, no, I wouldn't buy it unless it was a little bit cheaper. All the way down, and there's our 5 people: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if the other group is identical, the distribution is identical. Here's this person with the lowest valuation. We're asking them how much would you be willing to accept to give it up, and that's their answer for the first, right? So the first mug that gets sold, the person would be willing to accept that much, and then we go up, and these things are basically just exactly symmetrical, right? Which means that the market price is going to be at the median of either distribution. And since the distributions on average are the same, that median is going to be smack at the point where half of the buyers have valuation above the price, half below, half of the sellers have valuation below it, half above. These people will buy from these people. Half of each group will buy from half of the other group. And the total number of trades that we would expect is basically the total group divided by 4, in this case 11. Okay? Here's what actually happened. In the market for tokens, right, they did 3 different trials. The total number of trades in each one was exactly 11. Sorry, that's not correct. The expected trades was 11 in each one. The actual trades were 12, 11, 10. So standard model's doing really well at explaining these trades. The price that they got was, sorry, these are not actually numbers that are interesting for us at the moment. Just ignore that. Here's what happened in mugs. Okay, they did 4 trials of the mugs. Again, you would expect 11 trades under the standard model, and here's what we got. 4, 1, 2, 2. Very few trades are made. And here's what happens to prices. So this is the buyer price, willingness to pay, and this is the seller price, willingness to accept. And they're way off, right? They're miles apart. People are not willing to trade. Now, these are people who are randomly divided into 2 groups. Half of them were given a mug. The other half were sitting next to somebody with a mug. And their valuation for this mug is radically different, right? In proportional terms, in percentage terms. Yeah. They don't? Oh, that's bad news. That's probably true for about half of you, isn't it? Okay, so the brand new copier is not so fabulous. Yes, I'll post them. I'll post it. I apologize. And I'll check more carefully next time. So apparently there's an endowment effect for an actual good, but not for a cash equivalent, which is reassuring in some sense. It's extremely unlikely that these results are caused by the income effect. The value of the mug is no more than about $5 or $6. There's no way that if I gave you $6, you'd suddenly go to the store and say, oh, you know what? Yesterday, before Professor Ackley gave me this $6, I was only willing to give $2.75 for a Cornell mug, but now that I have $6, I'm actually willing to go and give half of it in additional payment for the mug. Not super likely, unless I told you that you were only allowed to spend the $6 on the mug. But to rule out the income effect completely and definitively, they did an additional experiment, okay? So this is mugs versus candy bars. They found a candy bar was worth about the same amount as a mug, which at the time was $6. I don't know what it's worth now. One group of subjects was given a mug and asked if they wanted to trade for a candy bar. Another group was given a candy bar and asked whether they would be willing to trade for a mug. And then the third group was just simply given a flat-out choice between mug and candy bar. Now, it's not obvious that half the people in either of these groups should be willing to trade, but it certainly is the case that if these are randomly divided groups, the number of people who wants a mug should be the same in each group, and the number of people who wants a candy bar should be the same in each group, right? Not the case, as I'm sure you can guess. Whoops. There it is. In group 1, which were the group that was endowed with a mug, 89% of them chose to keep it. In the group that was endowed with a candy bar, 10% of them chose to keep it, which means 90% wanted the mug. Sorry, 10% chose the mug, which means 90% wanted to keep the candy bar. And in the group that was allowed to choose, reassuringly, 56%, about half and half. So these goods, in fact, when people are offered a direct choice, are about equally valuable to people. But clearly being given one or the other radically changes what your sort of stated or revealed preferences, what you actually choose to trade. Okay? There's no difference in wealth. I gave each group roughly $6 in additional wealth. So the income effect cannot be explaining this. So we have now conclusive evidence of the endowment effect, right? We've ruled out the possibility that people are just using a bargaining heuristic. This is clearly not bargaining. It's buying and selling. We've ruled out all the issues of, hypothetical contingent valuation surveys are just kind of confusing and muddling. This isn't confusing. It's buying and selling a mug. You've done it before. If you haven't, you soon will. Okay? So where we're going to go next, bear with me for I always like to use up every last minute of my time, since the university is paying so highly for it. Not actually. Please don't tell anybody that I said that. So what we're going to do next time is we're going to start with this anomaly, this endowment effect, and we're going to turn to psychology to look for well-established psychological findings that could help us to explain why this might happen. And then we're going to start looking at ways to incorporate those psychological findings mathematically into something that looks a lot like a standard model so that we can extend the existing standard model into a behavioral model that will explain reality a little bit better.